It's the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, so why not take a look back at some of the more memorable designs? Unless you're not watching this video in 2016, then it's the this number anniversary of Pokemon. Anyway, with all the talk about the most famous designs, there's been a lot of chatter about the best ones, cutest ones, simplest ones, laziest ones, ugliest ones, and many more. However, there's one type of Pokemon design I think can encompass the weird yet clever designs, or ugly yet cute designs. Those types of designs being the awkward Pokemon. Now, the definition of awkward can vary, but for this video, I'm going with the ones that look or act kind of weird or uncomfortable, and the ones that may not be too graceful in what they do. Another big factor for this list is if the Pokemon have a backstory that puts them in an awkward situation. These are not the ones I hate or think are bad, but rather the top 10 most awkward Pokemon. Number 10. Loudred. Loudred's design has always looked off to me. I get that he's supposed to represent loud sound, but he looks like a friendly purple monster who has boombox speakers glued to his ears. It doesn't look like a natural progression from the closed ears of its pre-evolution Whismur. Do they just unfold when Whismur evolves and then invert? At least he's incredibly unique. I like him. More importantly though, I feel bad for it that it only has 4 teeth that don't even look like it's in its mouth. They look like it's on its lips rather than jaw. And his toes look like they have teeth too. Forget the ears, I think Loudred's toes are the real mystery here. They're a bit more awkward. Number 9. Ducklet. Alright, so there's nothing awkward about Ducklet's design, but it's what it represents. Ducklet evolves into Swanna, referencing the story of the ugly duckling, telling us no matter how awkward you are as a young boy or girl, you may turn into a beautiful swan. Or equivalent to a swan, since I don't think any of my viewers are ducks. I'm not sure what the designers were implying about this little guy when they made him the counterpart to the ugly duckling. He's actually pretty chill. He's got the look of, hey dude, you want to put me on your team? No? Alright then. Of the other Pokemon ducks, Ducklet might not even be that awkward, ignoring what influenced his design. Psyduck is always confused and isn't graceful in what it does at all in the anime, and can Farfetch'd even be considered a Pokemon if it loses its stick or leak? Those two are just as likely to end up in awkward situations. Number 8. Wartortle. I love this guy. Look at him! However, he represents the middle stage of a 3-stage Pokemon well. He's not quite the tiny turtle we once knew, and he's not yet the big powerhouse that can dominate in battle. He's like the teenager going through puberty. That idea is bolstered considering he's covered in hair, or more fur. Squirtle and Blastoise have a lot in common with their smooth blue turtle skin, sleek tail, and normal turtle ears. However, Wartortle gets a rougher looking appearance that changes its complexion in some iterations, a fluffy tail that doesn't look like it's related to either member of the evolutionary family, and ears that are pointed up like some other animal and then covered in fur as we see on the tail. Of course, it still has the major turtle attributes, so you can tell it's related to these guys. However, compared to the other middle evolutions of starter Pokemon where those guys are gaining main attributes of their final evolution, Wartortle sort of gains these extra attributes, then loses them when it evolves. The tail and ears get smaller in fact, and I didn't go into the fact that Wartortle is the only one of the family that has its teeth visible outside of its mouth when it closes it. Wartortle is just the lovable version of that awkward time in your life when you are going through puberty. Number 7. Garbodor. I don't dislike this guy. He seems to be the poster child of poor Pokemon designs, but I always liked the concept of the vile Pokemon. Like Grimer clogging pipes or coughing being happy despite the fact it's made of pollution. However, it's a bit awkward when you have to tell a tiny Trubbish that if it truly wants to grow up and get stronger, it has to have its insides and organs burst out of its body since that's the only way it can grow. It's actually clever because I think we've all procrastinated in taking out the trash only to overstuff it and have the real-life inanimate version of Garbodor. But it's a bit of an awkward situation when you can only obtain your final form by having your innards rip out of your body to become your full lower half, and then you wear what used to be your full body as your face, with that being the norm for your species. Number 6. Gloom. Gloom is one of my favorite Pokemon ever. I like the concept, I like the design, I like that its existence is awkward yet happy, but its name is not happy. Gloom is another situation of the middle stage evolution representing puberty. Its leaves are unkempt like hair and it smells bad. It's also always drooling, but that's just kind of gross rather than a natural part of puberty. It's actually not that gross when you think about it, since the drool is some form of nectar or something that is used for medicine and such. So it's only kind of awkward that this natural material comes out in the form of drool from a Pokemon's mouth. Number 5. Porygon Z. You wanna know what's awkward? When your trainer wants to evolve you, so he or she inserts some form of upgrade into you that forces your body to separate your head from your body, and then your eyes go all crazy. It's also awkward that we knew from the start that this was a questionable option. The item used to evolve this balloon animal duck is called the Dubious Disc. It basically has a name that says it's not a good idea, but hey, it makes your attack stats stronger, so that's an acceptable trade-off for putting a virus into your Pokemon that causes it to lose a stable form. At least when Porygon evolves into Porygon 2, you use the upgrade, which is certified by Silphco, as opposed to the Dubious Disc, which is certified by... oh, well, that makes sense. Number 4. Weepinbell. The existence of Weepinbell looks quite unfortunate. It's based off a plant that has weeping in its name to emphasize that these plants always look sad, and Weepinbell just has this look of despair on its face. And by face, I basically mean all of its body, since its body is just a head. Its pre-evolution Bellsprout has a pretty bad time when it evolves. It loses its legs and abdomen, and its arms move up to where its ears would be if it had a human head. It gets better when Weepinbell evolves, since he becomes more intimidating, yet never regains a body more capable of walking, even though its body parts get moved around again. I mean, where are these leaf arms even located now in relation to its body? And are his eyes technically below his mouth now? The moral of the story is, despite all that, get this guy a leaf stone. Number 3. Shelder. Nothing is really that awkward about Shelder as a lone Pokemon, but based off the lore, when it latches onto the tail of a Slowpoke, it becomes an awkward situation for all involved. Evolving Slowpoke into a Slowbro, and Shelder turns into this hermit crab looking shell that is part of Slowbro and not its own independent Pokemon. It's not how Shelder looks, but more how it's forced to live its life on the tail of this hippo salamander guy. Slowpoke generally fishes for Shelder, using its tail as bait. So this Shelder was just swimming in the water, minding its own business, and it sees what appears to be food. Not expecting anything, it bites it, since what do you expect it to do? Not eat the free food? Anyway, it was basically tricked into helping this Slowpoke evolve, forcing it to live its life according to the Slowbro now. However, according to the Pokédex entries, the Shelder stays latched on since the Slowbro's tail secretes a tasty fluid. So maybe Shelder is just that guest that never leaves. Slowbro just wants to fish with its tail, alone, and apparently he's not too happy he can't do that anymore. Plus in Pokédex entries and concept art, Slowbro is said to devolve if Shelder is removed. So if Slowbro was, say, at a fancy party and Shelder just decided to say see ya, Slowbro would be left quite embarrassed. Maybe not. Look at his face. I don't think this thing can ever experience awkwardness, so it may just all be on Shelder's end. Number 2. Magneton, and the other Pokemon that gain heads when they evolve, but mostly Magneton. I'll explain why in a sec, but first, the multi-headed evolved Pokemon that were almost chosen for this selection. For Dodrio, its pre-evolution already had 2 heads, so it knew how to share a body. Plus, the Pokédex says that each head represents an emotion, so the heads may be more symbols of the same mind than their own individual personalities. The heads of Dugtrio apparently have a telepathic connection with each other and think the same way, so that's cool. Doublade has the same body and mind as its pre-evolution Honedge and just split in 2, and then these heads don't have brains on our Hydra friend here. Alright, good. So, Magneton evolves by 3 Magnemite emitting a strong magnetic force that causes the Magnemites to stick together, or just have a Magnemite reach level 30, but ignore that fact. So you're telling me if a Magnemite emits these waves, it forces 2 other Magnemites with a similar condition in the general vicinity to become a part of what is technically a new Pokemon for all eternity. What if one of the Magnemites secretly dislikes the other Magnemite that emitted the signal? Is it just stuck there forever? At least in Pokemon Stadium they can move more freely. Here it's just forced to travel with the other 2 Magnemite as one being. It's even more awkward that 2 of these Magnemite are forced to become shoulders of the main Magnemite when it evolves into Magnezone. It's almost more tragic than it is awkward that you're forced to become a shoulder when your new team-up evolves. Number 1. I don't think I have to build this one up because that's a pretty distinct silhouette. Sudowoodo. It's kind of awkward when you naturally look like a tree, but in reality, you're pure rock, which dislikes and gets harmed easily by water, the same liquid that brings life and revitalization to plants. Yet at the same time, he needs to pretend to be a tree because, I don't know, he likes to hide from enemies. Look at his face, he clearly likes doing it. The problem with pretending to be a tree that hates water is people will start to mess with you by squirting water on you. But really, Sudowoodo brings it upon himself, since he generally pretends to be a tree right in a narrow pathway where no one can get by it. It's like that guy in the corner store who has 10 other customers behind him that tries to pay with exact change when he could just pay with $3 and not hold up the line. Sudowoodo could literally stand by any tree, yet he decides to stand where literally everyone will notice him and needs to get by to progress. He shouldn't be so surprised when people make him move, except for that one guy that punches him. That's rude. And for those who wonder, why Sudowoodo over the original roadblocker Snorlax? It's mainly because Snorlax is impervious to embarrassment. Snorlax eats an absurd amount of food, sleeps it off for a day, and then gets up and does his job right, so we can take the sleeping and path-blocking trade-off in a vicious cycle. Clearly Snorlax does not care that he is in your way, since he isn't trying to hide it from anyone like Sudowoodo is when he pretends to be a tree. So Sudowoodo, I enjoy his design, he's got a clever name, and he makes walks in the forest pretty awkward, making him my number 1 on this list. And now, what do you think? Agree? Disagree? Are some of the Pokemon I discussed here just misunderstood? Did I leave any Pokemon you find to be awkward off this list? Let me know. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.